Hey guys, so this week I've been working on the album as I've been doing for the last couple weeks, and the problem that I'm having that I'm coming to you to talk about is trying to decide how much effort to put into each song, or rather how produced do I want these songs to be and to sound. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is, let's just take an example. So a couple months ago, I wrote that song Is Was, and I put it up on YouTube. And if you saw that video, you saw that it was just me sitting right here in this spot, singing into the microphone and just playing it. You know, no big deal, just sort of a one-on-one session. Leading up to that, I had spent 5 or 6 days working on it and producing a mix that by the time it got to sort of a finishing point, it didn't feel like the same song. It sounded similar. Obviously, I wasn't changing any chords or anything. I was just adding stuff. But I had realized that the more I was adding, the less it sounded like the song that I wrote. It wasn't even really the same vibe anymore. If you listen to that song, or really any of my songs, you know that they tend to be more emotional or dark, just sort of on that line. And with that mix that I had made, it sounded really uplifting. I could maybe credit that to the drums that I had added or the piano that I had added at the end. So by the end of the mix, I really liked it. And I stepped away for a day and I listened to it again. And I said, this is not my song. It's just not. Here's sort of where my head is at. You know that episode of Drake and Josh where Drake sells a song to like some sneaker company or whatever, but they had completely edited and changed the song, so to him it was like a brand new song. To everyone else, they're like, oh, it's a cool song, but to him, he kind of knew, this is not my song. I don't like that it's out there for people to see because this doesn't represent me. That's sort of, not quite to that extent, but that's sort of the headspace I was in, where it wasn't my song anymore, even though I was the one that did the work on it. So the problem that I'm having now is that issue is coming up more frequently because I'm working on the album. I could just record the song, you know, vocals, guitar, that's it, leave it as is, put it out, sort of a raw feeling, but it captures the sound and the feeling that the song was written as and, you know, what I like. But I felt like it needed something, you know, it's going on an album, and although I like that raw sound, it's not really what I wanted to do for the first album. And so I was like, okay, I'll play with it a little bit. But sort of the same thing happens where I start and I get into a creative flow, and a couple days later, before I know it, I've got a song that I barely recognize that apparently I wrote. So where do I go from there? Do I keep working on it? Do I cut stuff? Do I start over and record it in like a one-on-one session like I sort of did with that Is Was video? I don't know. You know, I think it depends on the song and the vibe that I'm trying to bring with it. I think about a song that is already kind of, it sounds more uplifting or sounds more hopeful, like my song Interstellar. I think that compared to my other songs is like, it's got more of like a happy feeling to it. You know, obviously within the lyrics, you've heard it or you haven't. I don't know. Listen to it if you want. Anyway, some of the songs can be overproduced, but then in turn, they're not really overproduced. They're just produced because they sound like what they should sound like. But then I go back and forth with myself about, do I want to produce all of these songs? Do I want to make every song sound raw? What do I want? What is the sound of the album? I don't know what I'm looking for, because I could very easily within an hour or two just record every single song that I need to and put it out and say, hey, here's an album. Like, that doesn't take that much time and not really a lot of effort either. So that's another thing that I have to consider is, am I just saying, oh, it sounds too overproduced? Should I do that with these other songs because I don't want to put in the effort? Or is it because I genuinely feel that these songs don't need all of the extra instruments or all of the extra just, you know, whatever? I don't know. I've been going back and forth with it, and I think the verdict that I'm coming up with is that it's just going to be on a song-by-song basis, right? Like, you know, not every song is going to be built the same. Not every song was written the same. And so I'm not sure. I think that for this first album, I was picturing it to sound pretty raw. Just me, the guitar, that's it, you know. Maybe it was because that's how those songs were written. Maybe it's because I don't want to put in the effort. Maybe it's because for a first impression of somebody that doesn't know me or know my songs, I would want them to hear it in its purest form, because then as you listen to songs in the future, you kind of have that in your mind of like, this is where he's coming from. All in all, this is just a culmination of me overthinking. But what else can I do, right? Working on this album is where my head is at. It's where my heart's at, and it's really important to me. Of course I'm gonna want it to be perfect, and of course I recognize that it's never going to be perfect. So what can I do other than just keep working, keep moving forward, hoping that whatever the end result happens to be truly lines up with what I want. Maybe it will now, maybe it won't later, maybe it won't now, maybe it will later, who knows? I don't know, only time will tell. I mean, I can't help but overthink. Anyway, I should probably go ahead and cut, so I'm gonna leave you guys with the song of the week. I was listening to some Sinatra earlier, and he's got this song, One for My Baby, One More for the Road. Is that the full name? Maybe it's just One for My Baby. Good song, I really like that one. So I recommend that you guys check that out. All right, I've yapped for a bit too long. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this, feel free to like and subscribe. I'm gonna go and cut. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.